Shabbat Shalom, everyone! It's Friday again, and this time it's Parashat Devarim, Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. In our parasha, we are starting a new book of Chumash. This is the book of Devarim, which in essence, the whole book, excluding maybe the last few psukim in the book, are a speech of Moshe Rabbeinu given at the very end of his life to the Jewish people, just as they're about to go into the land of Israel. This is, in many ways, like the kind of pep speeches before you go, into a sports game. You have the coach who gathers the whole team together and he says, guys, this is it. This is how we're going to do it. You've come this far. We're not going to back down now. This is what you guys need to remember on the pitch. This is how we're going to win. This is what you stand for, and this is why we're here. And this is what we're going to remember, and this is what you're going to tell your children. All of these classic kind of inspirational tones appear throughout Sefer Devarim. But they also have so much more. Moshe Rabbeinu in Sefer Devarim gives the Jewish people a creed. It gives the Jewish people a view of the universe, of the world, of why they're here, of what they've come to achieve. And we see this beautifully starting already at the very beginning of our parasha. Moshe Rabbeinu will go through the greatest hits of the Jewish people throughout the desert. He'll talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. He'll talk about Har Sinai. At a certain stage, we'll have a retelling of the Ten Commandments. He'll talk about Chet HaEgel. He'll talk about the spies. He'll talk about so many different elements, and ironically, not necessarily in historical order. He will plug them into a narrative which is worthwhile studying from beginning to end. The book of Devarim is a fascinating book in Tanakh. But Moshe Rabbeinu has an ongoing message that is echoing throughout the book, and in essence echoes throughout the ages, a message to the Jewish people. This is who you are. All the more so, remember that Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to a second generation Jewish nation. He is not talking to the people who left Egypt. He is not talking to the Holocaust survivors, the people that survived the atrocities of Egypt, who were slaves, who are slowly trying to figure out what's even going on. He's talking to their children. He's talking to a generation 40 years later who's already grown up with all of the stories, who's grown up with all of the history, and is now looking to the future. And Moshe Rabbeinu gives us in Sefer Devarim, and especially in the beginning of the very, very first Parashat Devarim, a blueprint for the Jewish future. Beautifully, this will also end with the book of Ha'azinu, the Shirah, the song of Ha'azinu, which we will find at the very end of Sefer Devarim, which we will be reading usually in between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, or just before Yom Kippur, just before Sukkot, and in which there is literally a blueprint for the future after the Jewish people already go into the land of Israel, potentially even leading up all the way through Jewish history to Mashiach. And yet, if we go back to the very beginning of the parasha, we start seeing the beginning of this vision for Jewish identity, this vision for the Jewish interaction in the family of nations. And we see Moshe Rabbeinu giving commentary here, in essence, not just on the Jewish story, but on the story of the whole area. I remember once asking one of my teachers, Rabbi Menachem Liebtag, I asked him, who's your favorite commentator on Tanakh? One of these kind of annoying questions a student asks, like kind of, who's your favorite? And his answer, which he gave me with his classic smile and twinkle in his eye, is Moshe Rabbeinu. And I immediately knew what he was talking about. Sefer Devarim is in essence a commentary on all of the books that come before. And we will see in our discussion today, when Moshe Rabbeinu tells us the history of the area, he goes all the way back to Sefer Bereshit. He is referencing all sorts of things that happened throughout the 5 books, or the 4 books until now, of the Chumash. And Moshe Rabbeinu is giving us a broad picture, ironically with editor's notes, with pieces that are very clearly put in at the end when the book is being written by Moshe Rabbeinu, at the end of his life, when he puts it all together. You can see literal footnotes. These people are actually referred to here, see there, all sorts of different addendums that are put in later. And by the way, this is not me that's saying this. This is already the Mefarshim that say this. But Moshe Rabbeinu here is giving us a window into the past so that we can use it as a telescope to look into the future. let's talk about one of the elements that I feel really resonates with me in this parasha, that I really connect to because of what's going on in the news. When we read the news today, we often talk about the war that's going on in Gaza, honestly, still in Lebanon, there's elements in Iran that are still in the news, Taiman, all the different fronts that we're fighting currently at the moment. And yet, people more and more are talking about another front that the Jewish people are fighting at the moment, and that is the international front. At the moment, we're going through a blitz of misinformation, of lies, of smears, and libels against the Jewish people, against our position regarding the Palestinians and Gaza, and that the argument is that we are trying to do genocide, that we are trying to starve them, and all of these different arguments, which we all know are false. And yet we keep facing them time and time again from all of the nations around us. And the question is, what is the nature of the interaction between the Jewish people as a nation and all of our immediate neighbors, and today in the international world, our international neighbors? Because today, honestly, Canada is just as close to Israel on the international stage as is Peru, as is Lebanon. So when we come to discuss these questions, it's useful to look to the Parsha to see how Moshe Rabbeinu already set the tone that we shall find going throughout Jewish history, and in essence throughout human history. I noticed that in our Parasha we have more names of nations than any other Parasha, going all the way back maybe to Bereshit and Noach. I went through the Parasha and I made a list. In our Parasha we talk about the nation of Moab, we talk about the nation of Ammon, we talk about Sichon and Og, the kings of the Emori. These are nations that we sometimes come across. But we also talk about other nations that are less known. The Canaani, maybe more known, but we also talk about the Tzidonim, the Phoenicians in the north. We talk about Edom in the south. We talk about the Seir, we talk about the Chori. We talk about nations in the far north, in the areas of the Golan today. We talk about the Ma'achati and the Gshuri. We talk about the Zamzumim and the Rephaim and the Emim, all sorts of nations that are now extinct. And Moshe Rabbeinu gives us the history of the area. This nation used to live there, and then they were conquered by this nation. This is what they used to be called, and they had another name, and this is what they were famous for, and they had all these myths about them, that they were giants and all sorts of different things. We talk about all of these random nations. And don't forget, we've talked about South, we've talked about North, we've talked about East, and we even talk about West. We talk about the Kaftorim and the Ivim. Kaftorim are from Kaftor, from Cyprus. We're talking about the Plishtim, we're talking about all of these people who come in from the West. So in essence, Moshe Rabbeinu, in this parasha alone, has given us a quick tour of the Middle East and the history of the Middle East, all of the different nations that have appeared around. Why do we need to know all of this? Many of these nations we face in battle, like Og Melech HaBashan. We have a whole long telling of how we fought him, of Sichon Melech Og. So we have the obvious elements of the Jewish people coming into the land, needing to know who is my enemy, who is my friend, my enemy's enemy is my friend, who can I rely on, who can I not rely on, who do I need to face in battle, who do I not need to face in battle. And Moshe Rabbeinu indeed says to Yoshua, again, another little vision for the future. At the very end of the parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu calls in Yoshua, and he says to Yoshua, at the very end of our parasha, he says the following: ואת יהושע ציוויתי בעת ההיא לאמור, עיניך הרואות את כל אשר עשה השם אלוהיכם לשני המלכים האלה. You, Yoshua, have seen everything that I've done to these kings, Sichon and Og. כן יעשה אדוני לכל הממלכות אשר אתה עובר שמה. This will also be the modus operandi, this will be the way that you will fight God on your side with miracles and with challenges and with war and with battles. This is how you shall fight going forward into the future, going into the land of Israel. לא תיראום, do not be scared of them. כי אדוני אלוהיכם הוא הנלחם לכם. God is fighting for you. This is very much reminiscent of the crossing of the Red Sea. השם יילחם לכם ואתם תחרישו. In this case, the Jewish people also fight, and this is the model of the Jewish armies going forward, that we fight with God on our side for all time. And yet, in our parasha, we also have bad stories, stories of failure, stories of diplomatic failure, stories of strategic failure. We have the story of the Ma'apilim, the very first battle the Jews lost. God was not on their side, and yet they still went to battle and they lost. We have the story of trying to do diplomatic relations with nearly all of our neighbors and failing. Moab and Edom and Ammon and Sichon, and some of them Hashem says, don't even try, this isn't even worth it. Some of them we say, can we pass through? We will have diplomatic relations, we'll have a cold peace, we'll have a warm peace, we'll buy food of you, we'll have, commercial relationship, we will do trade with you, all of these things. And yet we find time after time, failure after failure. Some of them we have to fight, some of them we just leave alone. So really, in many ways, we have a microcosm of the interaction of the Jewish people with all of the neighboring nations in three different types. We either have failure, we have success, or we have apathy. And I feel that when we face the nations today, we have to remind ourselves that all three cards are on the table. We will face failure with some of the nations around us. We will face sanctions. We will have people standing on our borders saying, we will fight you. We will ban embargo. We will embargo weapons from you. We will cause trouble to you. We will not do trade with you. This is already built into the system. We have nations where we will fight them. We have nations where we will have to go to war. We will have to bomb Iran or Lebanon. Again, Lebanon is mentioned in our parasha. We've been fighting on those fronts for all time. We will fight the Plishtim, we will fight the Kaftorim, we will fight invaders, we will fight people coming to sneak in from the sea, we will fight people from the south, we will fight people from the east, we will fight people from the north, and we will fight people from the west. All of these elements that we see in the news, we often think, today is different than it's ever been before. And yet the Tanakh teaches us, Ein chadash tachat hashemesh. We have to remind ourselves, when we, the Jewish people, stand on earth, we are complex. No one is more complex in the parasha than the Jewish people. We learn all about the failings of the Meraglim, of all sorts of complaints, and yet we are the Jewish people. We have failings and we have successes. And when it comes to the nations, so too with the nations we have failings and we have successes. And I think when we read the news today, we have to remember that at the end of the day, we are part of a curve of history. We need to do our best. We need to fight. We need to have diplomatic envoys. We need to argue. We need to do all these things. But it gives me a bit of comfort to recognize that none of this is new. And none of this is the final chapter of the story. We will have Devarim, and we will have today, and we will have the past, and we will have the present, and we will have the future. And we will have Yoshua bin Nun, and we will have the next chapters. And who knows, Be'ezrat Hashem, we pray that they be better. We will have the recurring cycle of history. We will have Tisha B'Av next year. And we will come to think about it and say, where are we standing then? How is our relationship with our neighbors around us? Are we a light unto the nations? Are we a successful message to the nations? Ki beiti beit tefillah yikareh lechol ha'amim? Or, unfortunately, are we going again through a certain recurring echo of the Churban, in which all the nations turn against us and we are fought by the nations, and we have to fight back, and we have to recognize why God is putting us through this message time and time again. These echoes that we find in our parasha, I feel really resonate with what we're going through today. And again, this does not take away our agency. We have to do our best. We have to do tshuva. We have to fight. We have to think. We have to, reflect on what is our role. But it gives me a bit of calm and self-respect, reflection that we are part of Jewish history, and Jewish history continues. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will play our role in Shabbat Chazon. We will have the vision for our future, and we will use the past, the Devarim, the words of the past, to give us Chazon, to give us vision for the future. Shabbat Shalom and Somka.